Lazerbeak.
So I started playing saxophone in like 4th grade and then moved into guitar and played in bands in junior high and high school. Got back into hip hop and loved it, like deep into hip hop, like greatest shit ever. And I started to feel like I wasn't really contributing a whole lot to it. I was just like listening to it and whatever. So I was like, what can I do? I can't dance. I'm afraid to spray paint because I'm gonna get in trouble and blah, blah, blah. And I'm definitely not gonna rap. So, but I have this musical background, and Steph POS actually was like, you know, you should just pick up this MPC. He had just gotten one, and so we picked it up. Thank you, Mom, for the loan, and we brought it home, and he showed me like over a day's time kind of how to do the basics, and it was kind of on ever since then, and that was like 11 years ago now, I think. So it's been good. Just been learning, still learning, but enjoying it. I really, like around that time, Cannibal Ox dropped Cold Vein, and that blew my mind. And so I'd have to say the LP was one of the guys. I mean, that was even before I really understood, I think, what Company Flow had done for the most part. But Cold Vein killed it for me. And so a lot of LP and a lot of Blockhead, a lot of the Def Jux stuff was like in the very beginning kind of what I was going for. And then as I slowly kind of got out of that New York underground rap and really got into the New York kind of mainstream rap with like the Rockefeller era and stuff like that, then it became, you know, the Binks and the Just Blazes and stuff like that. And so I kind of tried to always integrate both those ideas so that it has this kind of lush underground element, but then still can kind of hit like the, you know, the mainstream rap that I've always been into. So Rise and Shine, I can only really work in the daytime for some reason, and so I get up in the morning and I come downstairs and I usually have maybe 10 or 11 records lined up that I want to listen through and just find little teeny, you know, a hit here, a snare there, whatever. And so I'll basically go through, you know, I'm skipping around. I'm not listening to 10 full albums, but I'm listening to different stuff, just taking anything that sounds cool to me, take it, put it on a pad, take it, you know, you have 64 pads on here, so you got a lot of options. So that takes about an hour and a half, and then I go through those sounds and hear what I've got, trim them up, shorten them up, whatever, and then I just play around with them for probably another hour and see if any of them work together or how I can, you know, get something going, some sort of like 8-bar structure that I could build off of, and from there, you know, there's a million different things you can do in here to alter sounds and things like that, and then I also have the keyboard that I put in too, so a mixture of all that stuff. But so one, you know, 3-minute beat could be culminated from upwards of like 40 different songs, and then the live instrumentation on top of it. That's generally how it goes. So it takes all day. So I don't know why, I guess, but I just, you know, at the end of the day, whenever the beat's done, there could be 30 of these pads that have never gotten used, and those sounds go away, but I don't think I ever thought to like, oh, you know, I should keep that for another one. It just seemed like that had its chance, and it's gone now. And there's a shit ton of other records out there. So I'll just keep it moving like that, I guess. I mean, I'm generally pretty open to whatever. It just so happens that over the years, you know, with the 5 rappers in Doomtree, we've just kind of become this family unit. So I'm always popping up on those records. But I'm down to pretty much where, I'm not going to say I'm down to work with everybody. Everybody hit me up, whatever. But like, you know, I'd love to, I really do listen. The majority of music that I listen to is mainstream music. I've always felt like I could hang in a different way with some of the heavyweight guys. So I still have that hope that someday I could do that on the side and work some of those bigger records. I'd love to get into R&B. I don't quite know how I'm going to fit into that niche yet, but I'd love to produce some R&B records. I really do. The majority of music I listen to is R&B, whether it's old or new. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people just assume that I'm only Doomtree and whatever, and I am majority Doomtree. But there's definitely still some wiggle room in there to work on other stuff, and I'm open to it. So.
On this project, are there any particular beats that have a story like that got submitted to a certain rapper that didn't work out?
Yeah. There are some beats. Actually, one of the last songs that actually made the record was called Night Fighter, and then we were like, me and Bill had been trying to work out this sequence for a really long time. like it's just missing something in the middle. It feels like it's falling off. And then there was a beat that I had kind of had on hold for Mike McLaughlin for a really long time. And it turned out that had just opened up because he was like, I'm not going to write to it. I think my album's going a different direction. And that beat ended up being like what I think is like the glue of the whole thing. Like right when you feel like you might be getting tired of this thing just pulls you back in and keeps you going until the end. So that was, I was happy. Thank you, Mike, for letting that one go. Other than that, there is probably the one track on here that people may have heard before is it's called LRL, but it stood for Legend Recognized Legend. It was me and Mediums acted like a friendly beat battle thing a couple years back, where we had to use the same record and flip it, and it ended up probably being the beat that I've worked the hardest at. I spent I think 2 weeks on it instead of the 1 or 2 days because I was so scared. I'd never done a beat battle. I was like, oh, he's gonna crush me. I felt like I was getting set up or whatever, and so it ended up being really cool because I got to really take every aspect of the song, as opposed to just one little snare from that song and a bunch of things from their songs. I got to just break down the entire song and kind of just remake it, and it ended up being one of the favorite things I've ever done. And so I thank Brandon and Zach for asking me to do that. I had made a couple years back. We'd come off the first like summer Doomtree tour, and I had made the choice to quit my pizza delivery job after like 10 years and try to really, try to make it in music or whatever. And so I had this year where I just tried to make a beat every day, Monday through Friday, on like a 9 to 5 thing. And so I amassed, 100, 150 beats over that time, which is crazy for me because I'm used to maybe doing like 30, 40 beats a year, and I did 150 in a year. And so I had a lot got used. For certain beats, you'll know immediately a rapper wants it or it just feels right. But there was so much different stuff that I ended up coming up with through that time that a lot of it just didn't fit certain things. Over that time, I made my first solo record, which was like a pop record too, and so we just kind of had all these beats, and rappers were using beats, but there was so many left over still, and Plain Ole Bill came through and was just like, there's too many good open beats here. We got to do something with it. And I remember vividly a drive home after shooting one of the videos for Legend Recognized Legend. He was in the back seat and he was like, we gotta make this Lava Bangers record, man. It'll be easy and we can put it together. He's like, it can be different. It doesn't have to be a beat tape. I can blend the songs together. We can make it like a continuous mix and it can showcase your stuff. It can be short. And at that point I was feeling a little nervous because I was putting out a pop record that I was singing on, afraid that, the rap heads were gonna feel like I fell off. So I was like, yeah, that seems good. And then, we spent last summer and up until now really perfecting it, taking from those 150 beats and chopping it down to 20 and really getting the transitions right and to what it is now. I'm super happy about it. But that's all the Bill's credit because I don't think I would have had the energy to do it on my own. Last track on the album is called Lift Every Voice, and I made that beat. This is probably the oldest beat on the record by far, and one of my oldest beats ever. I made it back when I was in the Plastic Constellations and we toured with the Hold Steady before they had super blown up. And so at that time, Craig Finn was thinking about doing a solo album that was almost a little bit into hip hop where he kind of rapped, and so I was making beats for him. Made this beat for him. Long story short, he ended up going a totally different route, never made that record. And then this beat went from like him, then it was maybe going to be on the POS like audition I'm talking about, and then like, Cecil, Sims. I think it went through a million different people's hands, and people just couldn't write to it. And that happens sometimes, I'm sure, to everybody, but you just have a beat, it sounds good, but as soon as someone sits down to try to write to it, it's just not there. And so, that was one of the first beats, I think, where Bill was like, people would listen to this without rappers on it. I always thought my beats needed to have a voice. And he was like, this is awesome, people will listen to this. And so that it's the last song on the record, it kind of anchors the whole record. And I'm just so happy because it was, for the longest time, the joke was that it would never, ever see the light of day. So we've unearthed it now, 5, 6 years later, and there it is.